Now, let's look at the preparation of the account in the seller's book for a hire purchase transaction. So, preparation of account in the seller's book for hire purchase. When a seller enters into a hire purchase agreement with a buyer, the both party, I mean the buyer and the seller, they both need to maintain an accurate accounting records in order to track all the revenue, including the transaction, all the expenses, including the transaction, and the assets that is associated with the transaction the both of them are into. Count this lecture important because I'm going to provide the key accounting entries the sellers will make in their books. The first accounting entry is recording the down payment. When he's recording the down payment, the first thing he has to do is that he has to debit the bank or cash account in order to record the cash received as the down payment. The second one to do under recording the down payment is that he has to credit hire purchase receivable account, that is to record the buyer's liability for the remaining payment. And the second point is recording installment payments, periodically. Under recording of installment payment, the first thing to do is that he has to debit bank or cash. As I said earlier, he has to debit bank or cash account in order to record the cash that is received for the installment payment. And the second thing for him to do under recording of installment payment is that he has to credit hire purchase receivable account in order to reduce the buyer's liability for the recording of payments. The third point, as I was saying earlier, is a recording of interest income. Under recording of interest income, the first thing to do is to debit hire purchase receivable account. That is to recognize the interest income that was earned. And the second thing to do under recording of interest income is that he has to credit interest income account in order to record the interest revenue. So the fourth point, as I was saying before, is recording assets cost and accumulated depreciation. The first thing to do under recording of assets is that he has to debit asset account in order to recognize the cost of that particular asset. And the second thing to do under recording of assets costs and accumulated depreciation is that he has to credit accumulated depreciation account. That is to account for depreciation over the hire purchase period. So let me now go to the fifth one. The fifth one talks about recording of final payment and transfer of ownership if there is any. In this instance, he just has to debit bank or cash account in order to record the final payment that was received. So the second thing to do under it is that he has to credit hire purchase receivable account. And the reason for him to do this is that he has to clear the buyer's liability. He has to also debit accumulated depreciation account in case if it is applicable. And the reason for it is that to stop depreciation. The fourth thing to do now is credit of asset account. That is, he has to credit asset account in order to transfer ownership into the real buyer. So let me now go to the sixth point. And the sixth point is talking about recording repossession in case of default. Of course, he has to make room for this. In case if there's any default, the first thing to do is to debit hire purchase receivable account. And the reason why he has to debit is just that to adjust for the loss. The second thing he also has to do is that he also has to credit asset accounts in order to recognize the asset return. The third crucial thing that is very important for him to do is that he has to debit bank or cash account in order to record any amount that is received from the sale of the repossessed asset. All these accounting entries I'm talking about, they help the seller in this instance in order to accurately reflect the financial transactions and status of the hire purchase agreement in their books, because it allows for the proper recognition of revenue, proper recognition of assets, proper recognition of other kind of assets that is associated with the agreement between the parties. So, and for this, we've come to the end of the lecture. I hope you guys gained something in what I've talked about. If yes, kindly subscribe to LearnCity if you are watching for the first time. Thank you for watching.